All right, so we're back, and keeps getting worse, man. Keeps getting worse. All right, this is from the Irish Times. Okay, vaccine rollout could begin early in the new year, says Donnelly. Prime Minister of Health says strong preference is that vaccines will be voluntarily. Yeah, vaccines could be made available to Irish residents early in the new year. The Minister for Health, Stephen Donnelly, said on Sunday. Donnelly was speaking after the head of the government news task force on delivery of vaccines, Professor Brian MacCraith, said they could start to be distributed by January. Commenting on Sunday on the timeline for the delivery of the vaccines, Donnelly said, I'd say December is unlikely, to be honest with you, but quite soon. He said inoculation would start as soon as possible, depending on which of the vaccines come to market first. He said the state had signed up for 4 vaccines, and he would be bring a memo to cabinet in relation to a 5th vaccine on Tuesday. Mr. Donnelly said that the likely availability of the vaccines was another piece of really good news, given earlier predictions that vaccines could take up to 3 years to develop. Mr. Donnelly said the BioNTech, Pfizer, and AstraZeneca vaccines were looking for market authorization in the coming weeks, and Brian MacCraith and his team are putting place to the steps to make sure they could be rolled out quickly. He said the Pfizer vaccine had to be stored at 70 degrees, so there may be different scenarios about how the vaccines are distributed. Okay. So now we got this, quick guide to Christmas changes. So the activity visitors to your home from December 1st, no visitors apart from those in support bubble. A support bubble? Are you serious? From December 4th, no visitors apart from those in the support bubble. From December 18th, 2 other households, places of worship, 50 max. December 4th, 50 max. December 18th, 50 max. Museums, galleries, and cinemas open on the 1st of December, the 4th of December, and the 18th of December. Restaurants closed on the 1st, open on the 4th of December, the 18th of December. West pubs, delivery and takeaway on the 1st of December, 4th of December, delivery and takeaway, 18th of December, delivery and takeaway. Oh boy. But he said while the logistics and rollout was a matter for Professor MacCraith, Mr. Donnelly said he would be surprised if their report did not recommend healthcare workers and vulnerable groups be vaccinated first. The EU has agreed to buy up to 300 million doses of the groundbreaking coronavirus vaccine developed by BioNTech and Pfizer. Pfizer said deliveries were expected to begin by the end of the year, subject to the vaccine receiving regulatory approval from the European Medicine Agency. Speaking to LMFM over the weekend, Professor MacCraith said the overall order consisting of multiple vaccines that Ireland was scheduled to be offered represented 1.11 per percent of supply and 1.4 billion doses ordered by the EU, European Union. Ireland's share had been agreed with the European Commission, given the state a potentially supply of 15 million doses. The European Union has signed advance purchase agreements for a total of 6 vaccines, which Professor MacCraith described as a pathway out of this pandemic, our pathway to freedom. It could be late December, but it certainly will happen in January at the very latest. We will have vaccines on the ground here, and we need to know exactly what to do as efficiently as possible, he said. The 6 vaccines for which the European Union has agreements for are from Moderna, oh boy, Pfizer, Janssen, Sanofi, CureVac, and AstraZeneca. More than 150 are in development across the world. We will not be short of vaccines, he said. Just over half the population would take a COVID-19 vaccine if there was one, according to a survey commissioned by the pharmaceutical industry. Men are more likely to take the vaccine, and older people are more than young. The survey for the Irish Pharmaceutical Healthcare Association suggests some 55% of the people surveyed said they would opt for the vaccine. 33% were unsure, and 12% said they would not take it. 1/5 of those aged between 18 and 34 were opposed to taking the vaccine. Mr. Donnelly said he did not envisage making the taking of the vaccine compulsory. Included among the membership of the vaccine committee is HSE Chief Executive Paul Reed, Chair of the Senior Officials Group on COVID-19, Liz Canavan, Government Chief Information Officer Barry Lowry, and Government Chief Procurement Officer Paul Quinn. The group will also include a logistics cold chain expert and project management expert. Really? This is going to be they're saying that it's not going to be, compulsory, but people are not going to want to take this vaccine. Okay. There also has been word of the fact that they've signed waivers. These companies have signed waivers. So why would you have these companies sign waivers? Okay. I'm sorry, not waivers. They have immunity. All right. So anything happens to these patients when they take the vaccine, anything happens to these citizens, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, they will not be held liable. Okay. That is scary. Okay. And this is what we got to deal with. All right. We're living basically on the road to the New World Order. That's what we're living in right now. We're living on that road. And this is what we got to deal with. All right. Some of you don't believe me. All right. You probably won't, but I have something to show you. Don't believe me? They're lobbying for protection. Here we go. Okay. Good. It's right here. Here it is right here. COVID-19 makers lobby European Union for legal protection. The European pharmaceutical industry's vaccine lobby pushed the EU for exemptions that would protect its members from lawsuits. There are problems with any new coronavirus vaccines, according to the people with knowledge of the discussion, an internal memo seen by the Financial Times. The pandemic has compressed into months vaccine research and development that can take years. Some potential vaccines are already at phase 3 testing stage, the last step before they come to regulators for approval. At the same time, governments around the world have poured cash into research and development to try to save lives and prevent economically crippling lockdowns. The speed and scale of the development and rollout do mean that it is impossible to generate the same amount of underlying evidence that normally would be available through extensive clinical trials and healthcare providers building experience, reads a memo circulated to members by Vaccines Europe, a division of the European Federation of Pharmaceutical Industries and Associations. The document says that this creates inevitable risks. For this reason, Vaccines Europe said in its memo it was advocating a comprehensive no-fault and no adversarial compensation system and an exemption from civil liability. Responding to queries from the FT, the European Commission said that because of the pandemic, it needed to act quickly as possible while safeguarding patient safety. I thought the Hippocratic Oath, or when you come into the healthcare system, was to do no harm to the patient. Take as long as you can to get this right. Don't make this a rush job. It added that any suggestion that contracts it was negotiating would not respect the rules in its product liability directive were categorically false. But it also said it was making provision for the European Union's 27 member state to indemnify vaccine companies for certain liabilities via advanced purchase deals it had struck and was seeking to make on their behalf. It said it was doing this in order to compensate for such high risk taken by manufacturers. Advanced talks. Vaccine Europe represents drug makers including AstraZeneca, GlaxoSmithKline, Janssen, which belongs to Johnson & Johnson. And you could look up the information about Johnson & Johnson. They are not doing too well with this vaccine. Merck, Novavax, Pfizer, Sanofi, Takeda, Abbott, and CureVac. Several of these companies are in advanced talks with the European Union over vaccine supplies, while some have already reached agreements with either the U.S. or the European Union. Natalie Mall, the head of EPFA, said it and its members were in talks with authorities on a compensation framework in case of vaccine problems to get the right level of compensation to the right patient when they need it. According to the Vaccine Europe memo, some people are likely to suffer adverse events after vaccination, even if such events may in fact not be related to the vaccine. Such occurrences, combined with the sheer scale of the vaccination program and public attention to COVID-19, could lead to numerous damage claims. Yanis Natis, who sits as an elected member in charge of the patient representation on the board of European Medicine Agency, told Financial Times that exemption from civil liability would create a dangerous precedent that could have ramifications beyond the pandemic. Yeah, people not trusting the healthcare system. Basically, efforts by drug makers to push for a blanket exemption from civil liability have been partially successful, according to people familiar with those discussions. While liability exemptions are common in the United States, this is not the case in Europe. Last month, Reuters reported that AstraZeneca had secured exemption from future product liability claims on its vaccine candidate, which it's developing in partnership with the University of Oxford, citing a company executive who would not name the countries. AstraZeneca has struck a supply deal with the European Union and with other countries. The company declined to comment. Separately, on Monday, the European Commission said it had concluded exploratory talks with Moderna, a company that's only been around since 2010, and this is the first time making its own vaccine, over the supply of its vaccine. The FT reported last month that Moderna had been pitching its vaccine in a range of $50 to $60 a two-dose course. According to a person familiar with the talks, it is asking the European Union for about $20 a dose. The price agreed for the AstraZeneca vaccine is about $3 a dose. Copyright the Financial Times, limited 2020. There you have it, man. We are, in an age where you want to rush something, rush a project, give it to the public. If something goes wrong, you want immunity from your consequences of your actions. This is the world we live in, people. People, I suggest you find a way to live off the grid. Find a way to live off the grid. Find a way to be able to survive. And we're in the end times. That's all I could tell you. If you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe. Later.